hours a day, using all the resources the church has to offer, packing, receiving shipments, loading stuff, unloading stuff, and he's been incredibly wonderful about it, as he always has been. So my deepest gratitude, our deepest gratitude, Father Dorotry.
From the beginning, to have the solidarity of well-known Christian figures for this movement has enabled us to go farther and further than we thought we might be able to. And it's also fitting, of course, because all of these individuals and denominations have a history deeply rooted in the civil rights movement in this country. If you look at the spillover from what's happening in Palestine and the wider Middle East, of what's been done to the rights of Muslim people in particular inside the United States, then we are still living to some extent within the vortex of Selma, of Birmingham, of Montgomery, and of Watts, and of Detroit, and of Malcolm, and of Martin.
For the past 30 years in this country, and I recall growing up where Palestine was a shameful word, and especially for the past 9 years, activity around Palestine, funding to Palestine, humanitarian support to Palestine has been criminalized. And what we are doing is we're normalizing support to Palestine. We're normalizing and we're normalizing not just the rights of the Palestinians, but equally importantly, we're normalizing our right to speak, to support, to change the policies of this government.
Like all of you, we were reduced to tears of anger and despair and rage in December and January as the bombs fell on the people of Gaza. Many of us, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, took to the street. I know in this city, in the city that I live in Lamis. And we took to the street, and it was important to demonstrate, because anybody who ever raises with you, what's the point of demonstrating? At least over this question, speak to people, and we will be speaking to people, we hope, directly in Gaza, and they will tell you that they saw the pictures. You may not have seen them on CNN, but they saw the pictures on Al Jazeera and Press TV and Al Hilal and all the other networks. They saw people in the United States of America demonstrating, and not just demonstrating, but in polls showing that a majority of people were against the Israeli bombardment of the defense to civilians of Gaza, and it enabled them to survive those 22 dark days.
I just wanted to say to you today that it is indeed an honor, and it is easier to do right than to be spineless and be afraid to do the right thing. And as a black person, we have to fight against suffering anyway. One baby suffering in Palestine or anywhere else is one of our babies suffering, and we have to unite. Councilman, you're into re-election, anything can happen. Are you sure you want to go? I am not a politician. I'm an elected revolutionary.
All right.
We have to make sure that Cynthia Mckinney gets home safe. He calls up the White House, so Councilman Barron wants to launch a complaint against the state of Israel. They got Cynthia Mckinney, and they said, could you send us more information? Like you didn't know nothing about this? And then they finally called back, oh, we know about it, we got it. And then we called the State Department, and of course they know about it, we got it. But it's interesting how the Foreign Minister of Ireland called and spoke out against what was happening, and their people are being taken care of. Some of the government officials in Yemen and other places are speaking out, but in the United States, we didn't hear anything from the White House, we didn't hear anything from the State Department, and we should not let them forget that. Because what human being can look at what happened in Gaza and want to exacerbate it by blocking any aid from going into that country? That is tantamount to genocide. When you snatch on the sea, when they're in international waters, that's piracy. We charge the Israeli government with piracy. How dare you, Barack Obama, how dare you go to Africa, kill 3 Somalians, for trying to protect their waters. When an American boat went into Somalian waters, they tried to protect their waters from toxic waste being dumped, and for you ruining their maritime, their fish, stealing over $300 million worth of shrimp and other kinds of fish, starving the people of Somalia. You go and kill 3 Africans to save an American ship, and you're silent on the Israeli government taking a ship, humanitarian aid to Gaza. We say no to that. That's unacceptable, and we're not going to sit back and let you do that. I want my taxpaying dollars going for farms. I want my taxpaying dollars going for medicine for the people of Gaza. So I'm glad I'm going on a trip and I'm mad. So anybody that's going with the latest on Cynthia Mckinney and the others is that they were held in detention in Israel, and they were asked to sign a deportation document, but it was written in Hebrew. And they said they're not signing anything they don't understand. Secondly, they shouldn't be deported because they shouldn't have been captured. They didn't do anything wrong. They were in international waters.
And aside from the former assemblywoman, there are over 12,000 Palestinian men, women, and children under the age of 14, under the age of 10 years old that are daily abused in Israeli dungeons. And when I say abused, those horrors that we saw in Abu Ghraib, that the world was angry and moved and enraged about, those horrors that we see in Guantanamo Bay are the staple of Palestinian life in Israeli detention centers, people who have never been charged. We grew up with the images of the masks and the electrocutions. This was the norm of Palestinian society, and 2/3 of Palestinian men are expected to endure this experience. So as we move forward, I hope that we keep in mind not just the struggle of our Palestinian people in Gaza, but of the political prisoners, from the infants to the women, to the mothers, the fathers, and the elderly, who have made the ultimate sacrifice, whose families are constantly suffering, because this is humanitarian, but this is not about charity. This is about self-determination and about people's right to determine their own lives, their own future, their own government.
We could not avoid being a part of this historic effort to give the people of the United States an opportunity to visibly demonstrate their opposition to our government's policy, our government's callousness, and our government's complicity with Israel's effort to destroy the hopes and the aspirations of the Palestinian people. And so we have been honored to be able to receive funds on behalf of this effort that we are here as a part of. This is the second Sendoff that those of us connected with Pastors for Peace have been a part of for this week. Last night we had a send-off of the 20th Cuba Caravan over at the Breck Forum, and here we are today. I like meeting like this. I think we have to keep